Okay, so now we're going to talk about in your folder, day 3. So if everybody would turn to day 3, we're going to start with the rights of the individual, and I'm going to be reading all the rights. So Orange Grove Center rights of the individuals. As individuals, we expect and we receive many rights. The lives we live reflect these rights. All individuals are equal in receiving these rights. Enclosed are the rights we all deserve and want. Please read these rights and know that the individuals you serve at Orange Grove Center also expect and receive these rights. These rights will be reviewed with the individual upon admission to Orange Grove, at their annual Circle of Support meeting, and upon request. If there is a right listed to which a modification must be made for any reason, medical, behavioral, etc., there is a certain process that must be followed. This process discusses the right, the modification to that right, the reason for the modification, and how that modification will be removed as soon as possible. As applicable and according to funding source requirements, modifications will go before the agency's Human Rights Committee. You, as staff of the individuals we serve, need to ensure these rights and understand the process for modification if needed. Please read the information enclosed and contact your direct supervisor if you have any questions. And I'm going to be reading all the rights. Orange Grove Center, the rights of the individual. Orange Grove Center adheres to the following guidelines in assuring the rights of the individuals we serve and their representatives are met. Each person will have the following rights. Community integration. Provide options for community integration and utilization of community services in lieu of on-site services, including medical, behavioral, therapeutic, and recreational services that may be offered on-site. To come and go at any time with no curfew. To have access to transportation, public or other resources. To have the opportunity to shop, go out to eat, visit family and friends, and attend events in their community as they choose. To regularly access their community, able to describe how or she accesses the community, who assist in facilitating the activity, and where he or she goes. To have access to materials to become aware of activities occurring outside the setting, talk about activities occurring outside the setting, and resident rights. To have a legally enforceable agreement, such as a lease or tenant agreement, with the landlord offering responsibilities and protections from evictions under the Uniform Residential Landlord Act. Know how to relocate and request new housing. Living arrangements. To have a home with lockable entrance doors, to have their own key to their own home, or have appropriate staff to have a key. Staff only use a key to enter a living area of privacy space under limited circumstances agreed upon with the individual. Option for a private unit. Privacy in their living or their sleeping or living space. To have staff and other people always knock and receive permission prior to entering the individual's private space. To have a lockable bedroom door. To have a lockable bathroom door. To communicate or have access to a telephone, computer, or other technology device in a location that has space around to ensure privacy. Video surveillance only be used in direct relation to the person-centered plan of care. To choose roommates, to have assistance provided in private when needed. To furnish and decorate their home and bedrooms in a decor of their choosing within the lease or other agreements. To have full access to typical areas of the home such as kitchen, dining area, laundry, and comfortable seating in shared areas. Furniture arrangements support group conversations. To have a home that is physically accessible with no obstructions, such as steps, lips in a doorway, narrow hallways, etc. Limiting individuals' mobility in the setting, or if they are present, environmental adaptations such as chairlifts or elevator is in place to alleviate the obstruction. To have a home free from gates, barriers, locked doors preventing individuals' entrance to or exit from certain areas of the setting. To have homes with needed supports to move about the settings as they choose, such as wheelchair ramps, roll-in showers, grab bars, raised commode, lifts, and viable exits for emergencies. To have accessible appliances. To have tables and chairs at a convenient height and location so that individuals can access and use the furniture comfortably. To have access to food at any time. To have visitors at any time. To have access to amenities such as pool or gym used by others on site. Additional, be treated with respect and dignity as a human being. Receive treatment without regard to race, gender, age, religion, social status, disability, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Have prompt and confidential services. Have your health and safety protected while in residential or inpatient services. Have the same legal rights and responsibilities as any other citizen of the United States, unless otherwise limited by law, and the right to due process. Be encouraged to take part in planning your own health care treatment and knowing the benefits, risks, and or side effects of all medication and treatment alternatives. Not be given medication without an order by a doctor, nor as punishment or for staff convenience. Not be subjected to experimental research without your consent. Have access to the cost of your treatment and your responsibility for payment. Be free of restraints or seclusion. Be free of mental, physical, sexual, or verbal abuse and free of neglect or financial exploitation. Be free of threats, whether overt or implied. Be free of corporal punishment. Be free of fear eliciting procedures and humiliation. Be free from withholding nutrition or nutritional care. Be free to pursue employment, education, and religious expression as desired. Receive and send any correspondence through mail or electronic media, such as email, text, etc. Participate in social, religious, and community activities of your choice. Keep or have access to your own money and receive assistance if desired or needed. Keep or have access to your own personal effects and wear your own clothes. Be free from withholding of any basic necessities such as clothing, shelter, rest, or sleep. Not have items searched unless consent is given. Have access to free interpretation services as needed. Consult your own physician or attorney. File a complaint as desired. Be free from discrimination and retaliation due to any complaint or report made. Receive a separate notice of privacy practices about confidentiality of your protected health information. Have the right and opportunity to vote if eligible under the Tennessee Code 33-3-102. Assistance will be provided if desired or needed to obtain a voter registration card and be taken to the appropriate voting precinct. Have the right to attend or not attend and have whomever you choose to participate in your individual support plan meetings. Have the right to make provisions for your end-of-life care. Have the right to choose whether or not your picture be used for publicity. If you see pictures throughout our center or on our Orange Grove page, they would have gotten permission. So don't be taking pictures. That way you won't be tempted to put it on social media, but don't take pictures. House managers and people that they live in the home, I'm sure they get permission for Christmas and birthdays and stuff like that. So just don't be taking pictures unless you've definitely got permission. Receive advocacy services. Some people use the ARC for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. People First, Tennessee Department of the DID Office of Community Services, Tennessee Department of Education, the Georgia Advocacy Office, U.S. Housing and Urban Development, and ComCare. And we have a list of their numbers on that page if someone has you to call those people. Out of all the rights that we just listed, there could be somebody that has to have a restriction. So we follow this modification process to the HCBS settings rule, and that is the home and community-based supports. There's this, you've tried everything that worked and didn't work, and you've documented it. So before we restrict any of those rights, I'm going to read the modification process to the HCBS settings rule, which means home and community-based supports settings rule / individual rights. Orange Grove Center ensures that all individuals served have the right and opportunity to work, live, and have activities that allow them to be part of their community and have the most independent skills possible. All individuals served will be assured complete access to all aspects of the settings rule unless there is a behavioral, health-related, or other issue that will need to be addressed prior to having full access. Orange Grove Center's policy includes the HCBS settings rule list of rights, and the center will ensure its policies and procedures do not restrict anyone from full access to the settings rule. New staff orientation includes training on the rights of all individuals and how to best display these rights to the individuals. Educational opportunities are given to the individuals through their circle of support, their workplace, their home, and when they are volunteering or recreating in the community. If for any reason the individual has an issue that impedes being given full privilege or access to any aspects of the settings rule, the following steps will be taken. The complete circle of support, including the individual, will meet to discuss the issue that is impeding the individual from having full access to the settings rule. Example, a dietary restriction that does not allow the individual to have access to food 24 hours a day. A specific behavior that would put the individual at risk at certain community activities, etc. The modification process that begins with a person-centered circle of support will include the following requirements. Be highly individualized. Document that positive interventions had been tried prior or had been used prior to the modifications. Document that less intrusive methods did not successfully meet the individual's assessed needs. Describe how the modification is directly proportionate to the specific assessed need. Include regular data collection. Have established time limits for periodic reviews. Include informed consent and be assured to not cause harm. The circle of support will document in the individual support plan what the issue is and decide what evidence needs to be documented, such as doctor's orders or past behavior incidents. The discussion must center on what positive interventions have been tried in the past, what worked and what didn't. A positive intervention would be developed as an outcome and action step first, unless there is a risk of harm to the individual or less intrusive measures have been tried and not been successful. The risk and less intrusive measures must be documented. If the positive intervention does not resolve the issue to allow the individual to have full access to the settings rule, this will be documented in the individual support plan and be assessed at least annually. Additional meetings may be held to revise the outcomes and action steps, discussing different approaches to be considered. These interventions must target the exact limit of the individual that impedes the settings rule. Any issue that impedes an individual from having full access to the settings rule will be reviewed by the Human Rights Committee if the circle of support deems it a human rights restriction. These restrictions must have time limits for review, must have specific data collection, must have informed consent, and can never cause harm to the individual. Any issue that is strictly due to health or safety issues may not be considered a human rights restriction. Clarification will be addressed in the individual support plan. Okay, so now we are at the handout that's competency testing for rights. We're going to go over the test together. So put your name, today's date, give yourself a score of 100, and I'll have that for your file. Okay, the first one, learn basic human rights. We want everybody to learn their basic human rights. Teach people their rights. Exercise these rights every day. And respect a person's right to make an exercise choice. Number 5, we are all equally entitled to our basic human rights without discrimination. Multiple choice section. Number 1, Orange Grove Center considers which of the following top priority? Is it A, rights for all staff, B, rights for family members, or C, rights for the people we support? The answer is C. Orange Grove Center considers which of the following top priority? It's rights for the people we support, C. Number 2, protection from financial exploitation means? The answer is B, I can't borrow money or personal items or accept any gifts. We don't want to take their money. They might be nice, want to pay our way to a movie or something. We can't accept that. So protection from financial exploitation means B, I can't borrow money or personal items or accept any gifts. Number 3, people have a right to confidentiality so staff cannot see, discuss personal medical information in front of others in the home, community, or anywhere you could be overheard. Number 4, people have a right to A, appropriate and respectful health care. Number 5, if a person has a legal representative, B, he or she can still make simple day-to-day decisions. Number 6, what does HCBS stand for? And it's B, home and community-based supports. Number 7, before a person's rights are restricted at Orange Grove Center, what must happen? And it's D, all of the above. We have data. A is data must be presented to justify the restriction. B, the restriction must be written in a plan. C, the person and or conservator must give consent. So the answer is D, all of the above. Number 8, when a provider agency such as Orange Grove Center owns or manages the person's residence, what must be insured for the person? A person can lock one's own bedroom door. B, a person has access to food 24 hours a day. C, a person can choose another provider agency without being evicted from the home. So the answer is D, all of the above. All of the above must happen when Orange Grove Center owns or manages the person's residence. The next section, checkmark the rights afforded people with disabilities. So before I read it, I will say check or don't check. So the first one is check, freedom of religious worship. Everybody has the freedom to worship as they choose. The next one is check, right to vote. Everyone has the right to vote. We may take them to vote, but we can't persuade them on who to vote for and stuff like that, but they do have the right to vote. The next one, check, right to personal hygiene items and clothing. The next one we're going to leave blank, but I'm going to read it, but we're not going to check that one. We're going to leave it blank. Right to hit others if they are hit by someone. The next one, check, right to have staff open their mail and read it if requested. If they ask you to read their mail, it's okay to read it because they need you to. The next one, check, freedom to express their opinions. The next one is check, right to make bad decisions which do not result in harm to others. The next one is check, freedom to change doctors if they don't like the care they receive. The next one, leave it blank, but I'm going to read it. Leave it blank. Right to disciplinary action by staff if poor behavior is exhibited. The next one, leave blank, but I'm also going to read it. Freedom to work without being paid to help out around a support staff's personal home. So leave that blank. You can't take them to your home to do work for you, so be sure and leave that one blank. True and false. Human rights are given to all people. True. Number 2, we are not equally entitled to basic human rights without discrimination. False. Number 3, we are all responsible for advocating for people with disabilities. True. Number 4, people have a right to be free from physical, psychological, sexual abuse, and neglect. True. Number 5, if people cannot control their behavior, they will not be allowed to eat dinner that night. That's false. A human rights committee is responsible for determining individual rights. That's false. 7, staff is responsible in supporting people with their freedom of worship and church attendance. True. Number 8, people have a right to share a room with their spouse. True. The legal representative may approve or deny an individual's choice of candidate when it comes to voting. That's false. Staff should not bother individuals with details related to their own health and medical care. That's false. Number 11, people receiving services through Orange Grove Center have the same basic human rights as people without disabilities. True. So that's all for the rights.